Welcome to Bullseye Movies channel. At first glance, Georgie Cooper and Ruben look like a familiar sitcom pairing. Two guys trying to make a business work, trading jokes, bickering over decisions, and occasionally clapping each other on the back after a small win. On the surface, their dynamic in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage often plays like light comic relief, a break from marital tension, family drama, and the weight of legacy that hangs over the Cooper name. But look a little closer, and it becomes clear that the bond between Georgie and Ruben is one of the most quietly complex relationships in the entire series. This review sets out to unpack that bond, peeling back the layers of humor, ambition, insecurity, loyalty, and resentment that define Georgie and Ruben's friendship and partnership. Because what the show is really doing with these two characters goes far beyond business partners who don't always agree. Their relationship is a study in mismatched confidence, unspoken hierarchies, and the fragile balance between friendship and power. From the moment Ruben enters Georgie's orbit, the show frames their relationship as transactional. Two young men with limited options trying to build something bigger than themselves. Georgie brings charisma, hustle, and an almost reckless belief in his own instincts. Ruben brings caution, practicality, and an emotional grounding that Georgie often lacks. On paper, it's a perfect partnership. In reality, it's deeply uneven. Georgie doesn't just see Ruben as a partner. He sees him as support. Someone to steady the ship while Georgie steers. Ruben, on the other hand, initially sees Georgie as an opportunity. A chance to rise, to escape the limitations of his background, and to build a future that feels safer than the one he's always known. That difference in perspective is subtle, but it's the fault line running beneath every interaction they share. One of the most revealing aspects of their bond is how differently they approach risk. Georgie thrives on it. He grew up watching his father work himself to exhaustion, then lose everything to circumstances beyond his control. To Georgie, playing it safe feels like another form of failure. Every big swing, every gamble, is proof that he's not going to end up stuck. Ruben, by contrast, has learned the value of stability the hard way. His instincts aren't born from fear, but from experience. He knows what it's like to have everything you've built disappear overnight. Where Georgie sees boldness, Ruben sees exposure. Where Georgie sees opportunity, Ruben sees potential collapse. The show often plays this difference for laughs, but beneath the humor is a quiet tension. Georgie interprets Ruben's caution as a lack of faith, while Ruben interprets Georgie's ambition as disregard, for consequences, for people, and sometimes for him. What makes their relationship particularly compelling is that it isn't an equal friendship, even when both men insist it is. Georgie is louder, more assertive, and more visibly confident. He tends to dominate conversations, steer decisions, and assume leadership without explicitly claiming it. Ruben rarely challenges that dominance head-on. Instead, his resistance shows up in hesitation, questions, and moments of withdrawal. This creates a dynamic where Georgie believes he's being decisive and inspirational, while Ruben feels increasingly sidelined. The tension isn't explosive, it's cumulative. And that's what makes it feel so real. The moment Ruben seriously considers Fred Feigenbacher's buyout offer is one of the most revealing in the series. It isn't about money alone, it's about recognition. Stability. Being seen as someone whose contribution has value beyond supporting someone else's dream. From Ruben's point of view, the offer represents respect. From Georgie's, it represents betrayal. What makes this storyline so effective is that the show doesn't villainize either reaction. Instead, it exposes the emotional cost of ambition when it isn't shared equally. The cracks in Georgie and Ruben's bond come fully into focus in the episode where Ruben seriously considers walking away. This moment isn't framed as a dramatic betrayal or a sudden shift. It's the result of long-simmering frustration finally boiling over. For Georgie, Ruben's near exit feels like abandonment. He sees it as proof that Ruben never truly believed in the dream they were building. For Ruben, the possibility of leaving feels like self-preservation. A recognition that the partnership has become emotionally and professionally unsustainable. What's striking about this episode is how both men are right and wrong at the same time. Georgie is right that building something meaningful requires risk. Ruben is right that risk without respect is exploitation. The tragedy is that neither of them knows how to articulate that truth without framing it as an accusation. One of the most poignant aspects of their bond is Ruben's loyalty. Even when he feels undervalued, he doesn't immediately walk away. He struggles. He doubts. He weighs his options carefully. That loyalty is deeply rooted in Ruben's personal history, his family, his upbringing, and his understanding of how rare opportunities can be. But loyalty, when paired with imbalance, becomes a burden. The show subtly highlights how Ruben often absorbs stress silently, allowing Georgie to continue believing everything is fine. In doing so, Ruben unintentionally enables the very dynamic that's hurting him. It's a painful, realistic portrayal of how unequal partnerships can persist, not because one person is cruel, but because both are afraid of what honesty might cost them. Georgie isn't malicious. In many ways, that's what makes his blind spot so frustrating. He genuinely believes he's doing right by Ruben. He trusts him. He relies on him. He assumes that shared struggle equals shared power. But Georgie's confidence often prevents him from noticing when he's crossed from leadership into control. He mistakes silence for agreement and loyalty for contentment. When Ruben hesitates, Georgie pushes harder, convinced that success will eventually justify the strain. This blind spot mirrors Georgie's struggles in other areas of his life, especially his marriage. It's part of a broader pattern where his optimism overrides his empathy. Another layer of complexity comes from how differently Georgie and Ruben relate to family, culture, and responsibility. Georgie's identity is deeply tied to legacy, being George Cooper's son, being the provider, being the man who stepped up. Ruben's identity is tied to survival, honoring his roots, protecting what he has, and avoiding the kind of loss he's seen too often. These differences don't just shape their decisions, they shape how they interpret each other's actions. Georgie sees hesitation as weakness. Ruben sees recklessness as privilege. Neither perspective is entirely fair, but both are deeply human. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on our channel at Bullseye Movies for more recaps.